What's going on, people? Myke C-Town here. So recently, my friend and yours, Mr. Huw Morgan, a great metal YouTuber, shows tons of awesome records. Make sure you go subscribe to him. Recently, he showed a little bit of interest in hip-hop. So basically, he was asking for recommendations of good hip-hop albums that may appeal to someone that primarily likes metal. So I know Rich Owens and Hamza Pool put together some Spotify lists for him to go check out, but you know what I do? I don't do Spotify lists. I don't even have a Spotify account. Instead, I just figured I'd make a video out of it. You know, because I've been asked this question quite a few times in the past, and I always toss out whatever albums come to mind. Now, I can just point to this video every time. So this will be pretty quick. I'm going to run through 25 hip-hop albums that I think will appeal to metal dudes and heshers. Hip-hop for heshers, if you will. This does not mean that they might not listen to KRS or Lil Wayne or Big L and love that shit. This is just the albums that came to mind when I thought metal dudes, hip-hop. And to be clear, this is not a list of my favorite hip-hop albums. I don't want that to get confused. Let's get started. The first one that came to mind, Death Grips, Money Store. I feel like it's a nice segue into what could be hip-hop. It's got some abrasive sound and it has that same attitude as metal and punk. The next one, Moodie Black, Nausea. I feel like this is fantastic noise rap. It has a more atmospheric feel than Death Grips does, so I think it would appeal more to people who are into black metal. Next one, Dälek, Absence. This is abrasive and harsh noise rap. Again, works for people who are into noise or heavy metal in general. The next one, Jedi Mind Tricks, Violent by Design, hip-hop from Philly. It definitely has a hardcore aggressive vibe. Canibus, Rip the Jacker. It was produced by Stoop, the Enemy of Mankind, the same producer that does Jedi Mind Tricks. And it's some next world, spacey, out of your fucking element hip-hop. So I think that would probably, again, appeal to people that like more atmospheric metal. The next one, Circle of Tyrants, the self-titled album. This is Ill Bill, Necro, Gore-Tex, and Mr. Hyde, and I was obsessed with this album when it came out. It's really dark hip-hop with a ton of metal references throughout the lyrics that I think heshers will totally appreciate. Necro, the prefix for death, the king of death metal rap, gory and gross lyrics that would definitely appeal to death metal fans. It even has members of Obituary, Voivod, Nuclear Assault, and I believe Jamie from Hatebreed is on this record, so that's kind of a pull you in. Next record is Ill Bill's Hour of Reprisal. It's great, aggressive, hardcore hip-hop. Again, tons of metal references. Any rap album named after a Slayer lyric is definitely worth checking out. Keeping with the Ill Bill vibe, Non-Phixion, The Future Is Now. If you like that Ill Bill record, I definitely think you should check out his group's record. All the MCs here are completely top-notch, and the instrumentals are definitely super hard. The next one, Cage, Kill the Architect. This is an album that definitely came to mind pretty quickly. Something I feel like would appeal to people who like black metal because it has that dark and evil sound without being too cheesy. At times, it's even really hateful sounding. Keeping with Cage, Leak Brothers, Waterworld. This is Cage and another one of my favorite MCs, Tame One. This is a super dark album where the entire thing is about them doing drugs. Sounds lame, but listen to it. It's fucking fantastic. Next one, Earl Sweatshirt with Earl. Like that Cage record, this came to mind pretty quickly as well. It's dark, it's solemn, it's morose, it's really fucking good. Keeping with that Odd Future vibe, we have Tyler the Creator with Bastard. Despite him later turning into a bit of a clowny goofball, his old material was definitely drenched in mystery and darkness, and this mixtape absolutely blew me away. Next one, we have Saul Williams with The Inevitable Rise and Liberation of Niggy Tardust. A super dark piece of hip-hop art. It's absolutely amazing. He worked really closely with Trent Reznor to put this one together, so it definitely has a really dark and industrial feel to it. So check it out. Next one, we have P.O.S. with Never Better. P.O.S. is a huge fan of punk and hardcore. He's actually in a hardcore band called Building Better Bombs, and you can definitely hear a lot of that sound and attitude in this album. The next one, we have LP with Fantastic Damage. This is easily one of my all-time favorite hip-hop albums. It's noisy, it's futuristic, it's heavy in its own way. It definitely has an aggressive feel that metalheads will surely appreciate. Next we have Cannibal Ox, The Cold Vein. Speaking of LP, this is one of the best albums that LP has ever produced or released on his label. It's dark, it's hard, it's almost industrial with the beats, and it has some really esoteric lyricism. You know, another one of my favorite hip-hop albums of all time, and I definitely think that some metal dudes would dig this album. Next, we have Nephlim Modulation Systems, Woe to Thee, O Land, When the King is a Child. This is Big Just from LP's old group Company Flow, and also this guy named Orko Elohim, or Orko the Psychotic Alien. This is a slept-on classic to me, but it's definitely one that has an underlying aggression to it. It has some of the nutsiest, while crazy hard beats that I've ever heard on a hip-hop record. It's super dark and super ugly hip-hop. Tech 9 with KOD. I don't listen to Tech 9 too much anymore, but pretty much any metal dude that gets into hip-hop gets into Tech 9 for some reason. He just has that metal attitude that I feel like comes through in his music. We have Gravediggaz with 6 Feet Deep. Picture Wu-Tang, but darker and scarier. It's a great, dark, horror-inspired hip-hop album. Antipop Consortium with Fluorescent Black. Again, this has that underlying dark feel. The aggression here isn't super obvious, but after you listen to it a little bit, you totally start to feel it. Jizza with Liquid Swords, a record that I used to dislike, if you can imagine that, but it clicked a few years back, and now it's a record that I absolutely love. It's another dark rap album, but it's one of the purveyors of experimental hip-hop, you know? The overall aesthetic of this album, I think, would appeal to some metal dudes. We also have Sadistik with Ultraviolet. This is the kind of record, to me, that would appeal to dudes who are into the shoegazier side of black metal. It's hard to explain why, but I think you might get it once you listen to it. He's like the Alcest of hip-hop, but it's dark, and it definitely has that feeling of beauty to it. Grayskul with Deadlivers, the creators of so-called goth hop. You definitely get a dark and spooky feel listening to this record, and you have a nice diversity with the rappers. And you also have JFK, who has this kind of rapid, high-pitched flow that I think adds a nice switch up from Henri Osborne's more dark and pulled back sound. So definitely check this album out. And last, but definitely not least, Techno Animal, Brotherhood of the Bomb. I definitely think metal dudes would love this album. It's Justin Broderick from Godflesh creating some dark, abrasive, industrial hip-hop. If you're a fan of Godflesh, you absolutely need to hear this album. So that's it. If you like these albums, great. If you don't, that's cool too, but throw me some comments in the comment section down there and let me know what you guys thought. And as usual, thank you for living, thank you for loving, thank you for being you, and I'll see you guys next time. All right?